A government shutdown happens when Congress and the president can't agree on a budget, essentially putting the brakes on the nation's operations. This deadlock means that the government doesn't have the legal authority to spend money on many of its activities, and the effects ripple out quickly. Funding for a wide range of services is halted, from processing passports to running museums and maintaining public lands. Offices that are usually bustling with activity suddenly go quiet. Non-essential services are put on hold, meaning anything not considered vital to the safety or security of the country stops functioning. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees are sent home without pay, a process called furlough. National parks close their gates and families planning vacations are turned away. Many government operations grind to a halt, and the uncertainty can last for days or even weeks until lawmakers reach a deal. These shutdowns aren't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, they're high-stakes political battles that play out on the national stage, with real consequences for millions. Each side uses the shutdown as leverage, fighting over major issues like healthcare, border security, and government spending priorities. The stakes are enormous, and neither side wants to back down first. The public often gets caught in the middle, feeling the real-world consequences: missed paychecks, delayed services, and closed landmarks that disrupt daily life. The longer a shutdown drags on, the more pressure builds on politicians to find a compromise, as frustration grows across the country. In recent history, two presidents faced major shutdowns: Barack Obama in 2013 and Donald Trump in 2025. Each episode became a defining moment for their leadership. Their approaches were starkly different, shaping not only the crisis itself, but also how the public experienced its impact. Obama made the 2013 shutdown highly visible to the public, highlighting the pain and inconvenience caused by the standoff. Trump, in contrast, focused the pain on Washington during the 2016 Dominixer 45 shutdown, aiming to keep the disruption closer to the political heart of the country. By comparing these events, we see how presidential leadership and strategy can shape a national crisis, influencing both the outcome and the public's perception. We'll explore what caused these shutdowns, the political battles behind them, and how each president responded to the mounting pressure. At the core of the 2013 shutdown was the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, a sweeping healthcare reform that became a lightning rod for controversy and debate. Understanding these differences reveals the power and limits of the presidency during a crisis, and shows how political standoffs can shape the lives of everyday Americans. In October 2013, the United States government shut down for 16 days, grinding much of Washington to a halt and leaving millions of Americans uncertain about what would come next. The shutdown was triggered after Republicans in Congress tried to defund the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, leading to a bitter standoff with the Obama administration. Rather than downplay the disruption, the Obama administration made a calculated decision: make the shutdown's impact as visible and tangible as possible to the public. Barricades were erected around national monuments and parks, creating striking images of closed landmarks, disappointed tourists, and frustrated families who had traveled from across the country. The message was unmistakable: this is the real-world consequence when government funding is held hostage by political brinkmanship. President Obama took a highly visible role, appearing frequently on television and at press conferences, speaking directly to Americans and framing the shutdown as reckless and unnecessary. He stood firm, refusing to negotiate over the healthcare law, and warned that giving in would set a dangerous precedent for future crises. Across the country, hundreds of thousands of federal workers were furloughed, families worried about missed paychecks, and small businesses that relied on government contracts faced uncertainty. Critics accused the administration of political theater, arguing that the White House was intentionally making the shutdown more painful than it needed to be just to score political points. But supporters countered that it was essential to highlight the stakes, mobilize public opinion, and show Americans what was truly at risk. The administration encouraged citizens to call their representatives, attend town halls, and sign petitions, urging Congress to end the standoff and restore government services. Ultimately, the strategy paid off. Polls showed that most Americans blamed Republicans for the crisis, and the GOP's approval ratings took a hit. Obama's approach ensured the shutdown dominated headlines and became impossible for the public to ignore. The crisis became a national spectacle, with the president leading the charge and shaping the narrative every step of the way. The 2013 government shutdown was, at its heart, a fierce battle over the future of the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare. This law, which aimed to expand healthcare coverage to millions of Americans, had become a lightning rod for political controversy. Republicans, viewing the law as a massive overreach of federal power, were determined to stop it. They saw Obamacare as a threat to personal freedom and fiscal responsibility, and tried to force President Obama to delay or dismantle the law by refusing to fund the government. In Congress, Republicans passed a budget that specifically excluded funding for Obamacare, fully aware that Democrats would never accept such a move. This set the stage for a dramatic showdown. The push was fueled by the Tea Party movement, whose members believed they had a mandate from the public to fight the law at all costs. Their rallies and vocal protests energized the Republican base and put pressure on lawmakers to hold the line. On the other side, President Obama and the Democrats, having just won re-election, saw defending Obamacare as absolutely non-negotiable. For them, the law was a signature achievement and a promise to the American people. Obama argued that giving in to these demands would not only undermine his presidency, but also set a dangerous precedent, encouraging future shutdowns as a form of political blackmail. The standoff quickly became about more than just healthcare. It was a fundamental clash over the legitimate use of political power and the limits of negotiation in a divided government. Both sides claimed to be standing on principle, making any real compromise nearly impossible. The atmosphere in Washington grew increasingly tense as neither party wanted to appear weak. For 16 days, the government remained closed. Federal workers were furloughed, services were halted, and the nation watched as neither side blinked. The shutdown exposed just how deep the divides ran, not only between politicians, but among ordinary Americans, over the very role of government in their lives. In the end, the fight was as much about raw political power and the future of American governance as it was about any single policy. In 2025, President Trump faced a record 43-day shutdown, but used a different strategy. Instead of making the pain public, Trump focused it on Washington, targeting congressional Democrats and the federal workforce. His administration threatened mass firings of furloughed workers and withheld funds from Democratic-led states. Trump kept a lower profile, continuing other duties and framing the crisis as a congressional problem. Supporters saw this as strength. Critics called it disengagement. The White House's goal: isolate Democrats and make them appear responsible for the gridlock. Trump's approach was a political power play, not a public spectacle. The shutdown became a battle of endurance in the Capitol. The 2025 shutdown, like 2013, centered on Obamacare, but with roles reversed. This time, Democrats demanded an extension of enhanced Obamacare subsidies set to expire. Republicans, backed by Trump, argued the subsidies were too costly and temporary. The fight expanded as Democrats pushed for broader progressive priorities, while Republicans resisted. Both sides dug in, playing to their political bases and looking ahead to elections. The shutdown became a test of strength, not just policy. More than a decade after its passage, Obamacare remained the fault line in American politics. For Democrats, it symbolized protection. For Republicans, government overreach. The unresolved conflict fueled the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The standoff showed just how entrenched the healthcare battle had become. Obama and Trump's shutdown strategies couldn't have been more different. Obama made the crisis visible, using public engagement and daily messaging to pressure Republicans. He wanted Americans to feel the disruption and demand action. Trump, by contrast, targeted his opponents directly, keeping himself removed from the daily drama. His strategy was to inflict political pain on Democrats, not win a popularity contest. Obama relied on persuasion and public sentiment, Trump on backroom power plays. The difference reflected their views of the presidency, one as communicator-in-chief, the other as a deal-maker. Both gambled on their approach shaping the outcome. The 2013 shutdown's effects were immediate. National parks closed, federal workers furloughed, and public services delayed. Families lost vacations, local economies suffered, and many struggled without pay. The pain was widespread and highly publicized. In 2025, the impact was deeper and longer lasting. The Trump administration's focus on Washington still spilled out nationwide. Federal workers faced weeks without pay, dipping into savings or seeking help. Contractors and small businesses were hit hard, causing layoffs and economic slowdown. The threat of mass firings created new levels of anxiety. In both shutdowns, Americans saw how vital government services are to daily life. Essential functions, from food safety to disaster relief, were strained or stopped. The shutdowns revealed the real human cost of political gridlock. Ordinary people paid the price for Washington's battles. After 2013, Republicans were widely blamed and their approval ratings dropped. The shutdown ended with no major concessions. Obama and Democrats were seen as victors. In 2025, neither side could claim a clear win. The shutdown ended with a compromise, a short-term extension of subsidies and some spending cuts. Both parties looked weakened, and public trust eroded. The lesson from 2013: shutting down the government to repeal a law is unpopular and risky. The 2025 shutdown showed that gridlock can drag on, with no easy victories. Shutdowns became a normalized, if brutal, political tool. The result: collective failure, not triumph. The public was left exhausted and frustrated by Washington's dysfunction. The shutdowns of 2013 and 2025 defined the Obama and Trump presidencies. Obama used public persuasion, making the crisis visible and rallying Americans. Trump aimed the pain at his opponents, framing the crisis as a legislative failure. Both shutdowns were fought over Obamacare, highlighting its central role in U.S. politics. The conflicts exposed deep polarization and fundamental ideological clashes. These weren't just policy disagreements, they pushed the system to its limits. The shutdowns showed how political tactics evolved, from persuasion to confrontation. Real-world consequences rippled across the country, affecting families and communities. The challenge remains: how to govern a deeply divided nation without harming those leaders are meant to serve. The story of these shutdowns is a warning and a call for better leadership.